Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. Nicole is okay. Nicole's upset. She's really upset about what Holly said. Her hating her mother, right? Now, here's the thing. I don't have kids, right? But I feel like maybe if Nicole would be a lot more stricter and by definition put the fear of God in her, maybe those things wouldn't necessarily just slip out her mouth. She was way too comfortable on Friday's episode. The way she talked to her mother, the way that she had a scene, the way that she talked to EJ was just like, oh, hell no. Because let me tell you something, okay? And I can only sit there and say this from a man's perspective or whatever. It is very difficult, being very complex when it comes towards dating someone who has a child with a different guy, you know? Because it's like in that situation, because here's my whole thing. I would have been like, yo, listen, you're not gonna be talking to me in kind of way. Not while you're living under my roof. I'm like, yo, listen, you better handle her because if I handle her, it's going to go sideways very fast. You know? 'Cause I'm like, honestly, tell you the truth, she was being hella disrespectful. But she's upset, and Erica's like, well, she'll calm down. She didn't mean it. Now, granted, I am not giving this chick carte blanche to just sit there and say all the god awful things that she said. But I'm like, it's a prom. And it's a chaperone prom. Like, you doing too much. You're doing way, way, way too much. She's been following your instructions damn near up until the letter. She's been doing everything that she's supposed to do, and you're sitting there saying, okay, well, maybe next year. Okay, well, you're sitting there talking about how you're going to be triggered. You're triggered, so what's to stop you from being triggered next year? It's one night. You allow her to go out every other night. What makes you think that she's not going to sit there and do the stuff that she was doing? Like, you're doing too much. You're doing way too much. They find Leo drunk again, taken back to the Salem hotel. He once again talks about his heartbreak and blah blah. I don't care. I'm gonna be honest. I don't care. Given the stuff that he wound up doing, it's very hard for me to have sympathy towards his heartbreak. He does sit there and in his drunken, stupid state says something along the lines of, "Well, EJ didn't tell you," before he passes back out. Meanwhile, EJ, known as the actual devil, and desperate. And to be fair, they're both desperate because Sloan does convince him to keep the secret because if he says the truth, then she's just gonna run back to him, run back to Eric, and bye bye bye. And granted, that's the thing. She did sit there and say that. She did sit there and say if it wasn't, if the baby was Eric's, then that would have been with Eric. And I'm kind of just like, so you're just with this guy as a consolation prize. This is why it's very difficult for me to have not so much sympathy because she did wind up doing that to Sammy, but just the reason why I just really don't like her, you know? But he agrees to keep the secret. He does go back, he does go to Leo's place, and offers him X amount of money to keep quiet, and he decides to do it. And he also makes sure, hey, listen, if you say anything, and then, well, um, Stephanie, I have no idea what this chick is doing at this point. She's hanging out with Everett and talking about old memories. And when there's one memory that just stuck out where he ate this really greasy, nasty, disgusting hot dog, and he wound up being sick for 3 days. I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, eating from a vendor is always kind of a risk in general, but it was rainy, and it was like the way he described the hot dog was all soggy and greasy and watery, and you decide to eat it anyway, like an idiot. Um, but they're reminiscing, laughing, and everything, and I'm just like, this guy has been sus for a hot minute. Even though he did sign the papers, he has been kind of sus, and I don't really understand what are you doing with him. Then the Days version of the hot girl came in and said, "Hey Bobby, how you doing?" And he just looked like, you talking to me? So, my name is Everett. I don't know who's Bobby guy you talking to. Um, and she looked all awkward and just kind of walked away. And Stephanie was like, "What's that about?" And he's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Shouldn't you find out to kind of get more information?" And he's like, "No, maybe I will later on." I'm just like, you got giant red effing flags, and you're just choosing to ignore them. Like, are you? I don't get this character. I really don't. But she agrees to kind of go out with him on another date because reasons, and this is where we are. Um, Jada is talking about cold cases and how she really wants to get Clyde and her reasoning for it, and that's fine. She talks about that stuff. That's cool. Until she gets to Bobby, right? Now, one of the things she does sit there and say is that he had a traumatic upbringing. His mom just left him, right? And that sucks, man, for any child, right? But my whole thing is like, why are you bringing him up? Ladies, let me tell you something. We can be there for you in a lot of ways, right? And if there's something that you really want to sit there and talk about, is something that's really going to sit there and help you out, cool. We'll be a knight in shining armor with that situation. Generally, we don't want to hear about your ex. We really, really don't, right? And so part of me is like, why did you even bring him up? I get it. It was about the cold cases, but it's like, boo, he signed the papers. You're living with this guy. You moved on, and yeah, he's all like, "No, it's totally fine." Because he was like, "I know it's getting kind of old, and they're talking about my ex." I'm just, so you should. He's like, "No, no, no, it's totally fine." It's like, "No, no, no, it's not. It's not. Don't listen to him. It's not. Um, it's not something we're going to be super angry about, but we, you know what I'm saying? You're with us. You're building life with us. You're moving forward. It's not a good idea to sit there and revisit the past. It just for just a variety of different reasons. Just the bottom line is don't, unless you really, really, really have to. And after that, close that bottle up and move forward. Um, I think the last scene, right? The last scene. Oh, I mean, also Eric and Nicole didn't really talk about anything else after putting um, Leo to bed. I mean, Eric was like, yeah, he did sit there and try to say something before, and then he just passed out. But let him just sleep it off, and hopefully he'll remember what it is. Now, the last conversation. Oh, I did forget something. Yeah, I watched this early this morning. That's exactly why it's a good thing I took notes. One of the things Rafe did sit there and say was the blood that was on. It was fingerprints. The fingerprints was go. Now the blood that was on the book was Li Shen, right? So now Rafe is like, oh, okay, cool. And Gabby didn't do it. I don't know if that's something you can exactly take to DA yet, just to kind of free her. I think you may need a little more evidence, but it's in the right direction. Then Kristen invited Ava over, and first we just kind of just catching up on good old times or whatever, talking about memory lane and eating carrots and hummus because apparently that's what people do. Um, but then she wants to then start asking about Gil, what's he doing there, the connection that may have to do with Li Shen. And while she's sitting there talking, Ava's getting a little kind of cagey because they do talk about Stefan and putting all the blame on himself and everything. And I think the reason why she was getting so cagey is because she didn't want Kristen to know about the deal with Harris and Harris and Stefan. You know, So she got a little kind of cagey, got a little kind of defensive, but not defensive enough to raise suspicion. Now, I do feel like Kristen eventually is going to find out about that deal with Stefan, about, taking all the blame, taking the rap, in exchange for Harris not saying anything. But that was something that was on her mind during that line of questioning. Okay, now I feel like that's pretty much about it. I can't think of anything else, but as I always sit there and say, come to the live stream tonight. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll sit there and talk about all the shows, Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, Bold and Beautiful, and Young and the Restless. And with that being said, I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next video.